The Overwatch Archives Event 2019 is live, and from my point of view, the Storm Rising gameplay is a bit of a disappointment, to say the least. Maybe I was expecting too much, or maybe Blizzard didn't do enough, but instead of pointing out everything that doesn't work and why a big part of the community isn't satisfied, I want to look into a few gameplay mechanics that Blizzard could have used in Storm Rising to make it better. Jeff Kaplan mentioned in a recent interview that they worked 6 months on Storm Rising, half the time invested in Retribution. And since they didn't have to create new enemy models, they could invest most of their resources on the cutscenes, which is great, they're awesome, but at what cost? Of course, if you invest more time and resources in a project, you will automatically get better results. But from my past experience as a journalist for PC Gamer France and all the studios I've visited and interviews I've made, I can assure you that even a small team of passionate people can achieve great deeds and make amazing games. So in this video, instead of discussing Blizzard choices with Storm Rising, I will play along with them. We'll keep the long cinematics, we'll keep the choice of characters, we'll keep the boundaries of the Havana map and the hurricane effect, and only suggest ideas that could have been somewhat easily implemented in the mission and have a huge impact on the player experience. Small tweaks for a drastic change. Hey guys, Alex here for Overwatch Limbo, bringing you a true experience of the competitive mode to learn, improve and grow together as better players. So if you're new here, I publish every 3 days guides, reviews and debunked videos to dig deeper into my Grandmaster journey. And from now on also trendy topics analysis like this one. So consider subscribing for more content like this and hitting that bell icon to make sure to be notified of all my future content. When you don't have the means or the ambition to develop an amazing new product, all you can do is to look at your best competitors and imitate them. Take the best ideas, the best mechanics, and reproduce them as best as you can. And what Call of Duty, Left 4 Dead or Warhammer Vermintide teach us is that the most important aspects of a co-op PvE mission are its rhythm and variety. And even without much effort, Uprising and Retribution are doing a better job at changing the pace and the objectives of their gameplay than Storm Rising does. So what Blizzard could have done to make the mission more interesting, exciting and appealing without touching its core structure? Well, across the map, 4 things come to mind: enemy density, enemy spawn randomness, explosive objects, and cutscenes. Like I said, nothing we haven't seen in other games or that would be too difficult to develop. If you can make many unique and challenging opponents, you want to create the feeling of a challenge by increasing the number of enemies. If a code can handle too many characters on screen, decrease the 3D model details and make them move around more. No decent soldier stands still in an open area anyway. The randomness is harder to put in place from a developer perspective, I give you that. But it's definitely worth it because it gives so much replay value to the mission. Right now, we know exactly where are the enemies standing and coming from, and once you earn your achievement, there's no use to play the mission again. But with enemies spawning randomly around the map, entering through a different door each time, landing at a different spot, the game gets less predictable, and thus more intense and fun to play again. Combined with high score leaderboards, players will definitely enjoy the competition with their friends and play the mission over and over until they reach their goal. With more unpredictable waves of enemies coming, even if they are weaker overall to balance the difficulty, the players will need ways to eliminate them faster. Without touching at their heroes' abilities, one way to achieve that is to include explosive objects in the environment. The most common one is obviously the explosive barrel that we all know. Add them here and there on the map and you can deal with big groups of enemies with one bullet. Make them movable and allow the players to prepare defensive measures for incoming threats will also increase the strategy requirement of the mission. You can also reward the players' skills by adding more fancy explosive objects, like shooting at one tiny spot of the dropships to make them blow up before the Talon soldiers get down, or pushing the players' cooperation by making a couple of them shooting simultaneously at 2 fuse boxes to create a lethal electric arc in between them. Note that the explosion and electric effect are already in the game with Ash's dynamite and Winston Tesla cannon, so it's just about recycling and adapting what we have. like recycling the introduction of the sniper, the assassin and the heavy assault from Retribution. It sounds silly to reuse them, but it actually adds that cinematic feeling to the mission that you need to make it feel more epic. Also, adding other cutscenes here and there to emphasize on certain objectives or achievements will also increase the smoothness of the campaign, like a nice panoramic view on the fort and hurricane on point C, or a slow motion effect on incoming waves for example. Nothing too fancy, just enough to make it more thrilling. Okay, that's for the general ideas. But what about the mission structure itself? Let's proceed in order and look at point A first, which is the streets of Havana, and this uphill large road facing a nice and cozy high ground for snipers to set camp on. You will tell me, snipers, we have that already, doesn't do any difference. Yes, but what if we tweak a bit the process? First, you put 2 or 3 snipers on that high ground and you don't make them move around. Instead, you protect them with some cover and you make them more lethal. Not one shot, one kill, but almost. So there's a real sense of danger pending on the player's head. You introduce the sniper bunker in a short clip with Sojourn recommending the team to avoid the shooting gallery and to flank the snipers with 1 or 2 heroes, while the others stay as decoy. So the players could split, attract the snipers' fire, while flanking and taking them down, or all go together through the middle bit by bit with Winston Bubble. If everyone goes through the side route though, the snipers will reposition as well as the other soldiers, and it will turn into a tough choking point almost impossible to break through. So ultimately, players will have the choice of the approach, but the key element here will be the time limit aspect. Maximilian is fleeing, so the team has to hurry to the next point. Players won't be able to take it easy and go from cover to cover slowly with Winston's bubble and Mercy's heal. They will need to act fast and destroy those bunkers while dealing with pressuring waves of Talon soldiers. Once this is done, the team will jump down in front of the factory's door. There, the window on top will be initially closed and will open to reveal a very dangerous turret spraying bullets on our heroes, forcing us to run to cover. Another cutscene could follow, showing a huge number of soldiers rushing towards our position from the beginning of the map, pressuring us to act quickly and take over the turret like suggested by Sojourn. All 4 heroes can reach that high ground one way or another, and coordination will be key to attack together and take it down. When that's done and the wave of enemies finally attacking, the team will have to set up some explosives on the door like the Blackwatch team did in Retribution, but they would also have to protect it from being disarmed and therefore losing precious time. With the help of the turret, the team should be able to eliminate all enemies before they would reach the door and then move on to the next point in time. And after all that stress from defending the entrance, the first half a minute in Dawn Rambatico Warehouse should be nice and quiet, allowing the heroes to develop the story a bit and figure out what they have to do next. Once they realize the exit door is locked and they have to blow it up, the whole place will be sealed and power will be cut. No more lights. The warehouse will be almost pitch black. And of course that's when waves of enemies will attack and try to use the darkness to their advantage. The players will have to stay together and face the enemies with the help of Mercy's light or other small source of lighting like these ones. But then the assassin will appear, and on top of being protected by the darkness, he could also be gifted with Sombra's invisibility tech to make this battle even more frantic. Chasing a transparent shadow in the darkness that can jump on people and drag them away to kill them, that would give so much more trouble and dramatic input to the assassin fight. Once dealt with that mini-boss battle with the assassin, Sojourn will restore the power and suggest the team to find a way to blow up the exit door. No truck already loaded with explosives this time, but just a truck and 4 explosive barrels randomly placed in point B hidden spots. The team not only will have to find them in a limited time, but also will have to be careful not to fall from the enemy's attacks, since carrying the barrels won't allow them to shoot like in the Capture the Flag arcade mode. So the safest tactic will be to split into teams of 2 and spread out to bring the barrels in time. And finally, when all barrels are gathered, the heavy assault will show up in a cutscene ordering some troopers to attack and destroy the truck while he will distract the Overwatch team. So not only the players will have to take down the heavy assault, but they will also have to eliminate the soldiers that are damaging the truck. And that little game will continue on point C. Escorting the payload will never be the same. Exactly like Blizzard did in Uprising and Junkenstein by applying to the whole escort part, the team will have to look out for small kamikaze units, like revamped reap tires, and for soldiers coming up close to try to detonate the truck. And all those will of course be introduced with the appropriate cutscenes. There won't be any time limit here, but just the urgency of bringing the payload to destination before it gets destroyed. On top of random incoming enemies, the special units will also show up to slow down the progression of the players depending on the level of difficulty. A turret could be installed here and also here, so before bringing the payload in range, the players will have to get rid of the soldiers standing there and maybe even start using them. Another aspect of this part of Storm Rising was the hurricane effect that Jeff was so proud of. But instead of just making it a relatively mild aesthetic environment coating, why not turning it in an actual gameplay element? If the storm was stronger, it wouldn't just give a more epic vibe to the sequence, it could also reduce the visibility and why not have some actual gameplay utility? I'm thinking random thunder strikes that would deal damage with a little visual cue to where it will strike, like Doomfist ult, and eventually also a time-limited weapon booster for Winston if he stands underneath a strike. But even without actual gameplay synergies, a stronger storm effect reducing the visibility and thus the incoming threats detection would give such an amazing atmosphere to this escorting phase on point C. Finally arrived in the fort and vanquished the last Talon resistance of elite soldiers, like in the actual Storm Rising, the team would then reach the last endeavor of this mission, a true boss fight. From my experience, a boss doesn't have to be really tough or hard to take down. The best bosses are those that take a bit of time and requires a good strategy to defeat, but most importantly give you that grandiose feeling of achieving a great deed. Of course, it would have been nice to have a new 3D model to fight, but even without one, just with the elites that we have, it would have been possible to create a boss fight worth it. We have a truck full of explosives to blow up the door here. Once arrived to this point, there's no reason to wait until the area is clear to get to Maximilian, especially since the truck is vulnerable. Unless Maximilian appears to one of these windows and start pulling the strings like the smart tactician that he probably is. You don't even need a good 3D model since he's behind a window, the one from the teaser should do. So from there, after a proper cinematic introduction, the boss fight would start, and the first Maximilian's move would be to lock the truck on that platform here. The players will have not only to protect the truck, but also to quickly unlock the 4 restraints by shooting down 4 fuse boxes randomly spread around the map. Again, time will be limited by the amount of damage the truck can take, and teamwork will be essential to win this battle. And that's not all. A good boss fight would also increase the tension by changing the flow of the battle or the objectives within the fight. A regular boss would power up, changing form and maybe type of attacks, or he would regenerate his health to overflow the players with more stress and adrenaline. Here, Maximilian could easily call out reinforcements and order the elite to focus on attacking the truck, which will force everyone to come back, regroup and defend the payload together. In the meantime, Max would order the troopers to rewire the locks to other fuse boxes and thus destroy all the efforts made so far by the players. So the team would have to take care of them again, all that while fighting increasing waves of enemies, numerous elites in a raging storm environment with low visibility and thunderstorms hitting the ground. Doesn't that sound a bit better than what we had? Well, let me know what you think about this boss fight and the redesign of the whole Storm Rising mission in the comment section below. Would you enjoy playing this version? Do you think Blizzard could actually have made it this way? And what things would you have wanted to be implemented in Storm Rising? Tell me all about it down below. Also, before I tell you my theory about the new character revealed in the final cinematic, if you enjoy the video and want more content like this one, make sure to leave it a like. It really helps the channel growing and keeps me going. And if you haven't done it already, consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to be notified of all my future content. And here is the best comment of the last video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember losties, losers are not your mind. Theory of the day. We know that this Reaper lookalike Omnic is the leader of a faction that will collaborate with Doomfist. So it's safe to say that he is a fighter, and he will be added to the pool of heroes sooner or later. Will he be a tank or a DPS? My take on that question in a further video.